The separation of conjoined twins, Mpho and Mphonyana, made global names of them and the gifted medical team at the then-Baragwanath hospital. We wondered, whatever happened to them? It's 1986 and South Africa is in a state of emergency. There is violence and bloodshed on the streets. It will be another 4 years before the unbanning of liberation movements and the release of Nelson Mandela. But in Klerksdorp, in the northwest, the birth of a set of twins has everyone buzzing. The newborns are conjoined at the head and were a rare sight for many South Africans. Their story dominated the news cycle in South Africa for months. They captured our hearts and captivated an entire nation. The story of iconic twins, Mpho and Mphonyana Mathibela. With daily updates in newspapers, television and radio stations, their story was a welcomed distraction from the violence and chaos in the country. Almost 2 years after their historic birth, a team of highly trained medical specialists gathered at the then-Baragwanath hospital in Gauteng for a groundbreaking surgery to separate Mpho and Mphonyana for the first time in their lives. Okay.
By operation.
Okay.
Yeah, no go tsena mo thapelo. Ya gore ba kene mo fiata.
The operation was the first of its kind in South Africa, and 34 years since the twins were separated, we wanted to catch up with the Mathibela family and the medical team that made history. After weeks of research, our search led us to Klerksdorp, where Mpho and Mphonyana were born on the 9th of December 1986, and where their mother, Mpho Mathibela, still lives. When you saw them for the first time?
Ke ne ka tshoga mara ne ke ipolela gore ya nong la ke tshoga ke bana ke ya gona double up ke bana ba me.
Sharing a sagittal sinus, a major vein that drains blood from the brain, a section of the skull, and a large amount of brain tissue, specialists didn't give the twins long to live.
Ne ke rapela thapelo e fele ke nela ya. Na go ngo ne ke tsoga go se tsatsi le le phirima be le tlhaba le lengwe se be ke robala. No go le thata mme no go se monate no go le thata.
Her prayers were finally answered when a team of 40 of the best surgeons and nurses in the country assembled in Soweto to attempt this innovative but risky surgery.
Ke dumela mo di doctor gore ba kana ba tswela ka operation.
The bleeding started again.
I was a young registrar in those days. It was a massive team. So it had the neurosurgeons, 4 consultants, and the boss, Professor 𝗀𝗧𝗃𝗃𝗿. It had plastic surgeons. The most important were the anaesthetists. There were 3 or 4 anaesthetists because once the kids had been separated, the 2 cribs had to be rolled apart and each kid had to be worked on at the same time.
Dr. Percy Miller is one of the last remaining members of that team.
The main draining vein from the brain is common to both twins. So one draining vein runs between both heads. Now if that vein gets damaged or disturbed, then that brain swells because there's nowhere for the blood to go, and that child is going to be very badly damaged or die. So you have to work out a way to split the vein in 2 so that each kid gets a bit of vein drainage. And that's very complex technically.
A complex operation that had many South Africans on the edge of their seats. Doctor, the whole country was waiting with bated breath. There was so much media attention.
It made everything much more tense. There were so many reporters outside, and by the time we came out about 5:36, it had doubled.
As a young SABC News TV reporter, Karin van der Merwe broke the story to a deeply divided nation.
This was 1988, and we were so far away from the new South Africa. But Mpho and Mphonyana united South Africans because for once, people black and white cared about the same 2 little children. And it was just amazing.
After 10 grueling hours, Mpho and Mphonyana were separated.
They were all on ventilators and tubes and things, but they looked good. So by the next morning, we could say, okay, it's actually looks like it's winning.
While the operation had been successful, complications are always a risk, and tragically, a year after the procedure, Mphonyana died of pneumonia.
motho after operation motho o na le bokoa thata e ne le Mphonyana. Mpho o na le alright o ne a tsamaya kgona go tsamaya. Mpho o na kgona go dula mo tafoleng a ja. Mpho o na kgona go ya go ikisa go toilet.
Okay.
Le go tlhapa o na kgona go itlhapisa ke mo tshela metsi a tlhapa bare o na le staraga.
Mpho went on to live to the age of 35. While still tragically short, it was a relatively full life for someone who had once faced seemingly insurmountable odds.
Mpho o kutsege ga se nako e telele mara sa jupe a nta re maoto a gana ha a tshwantsa eme ba re mao a gana maoto Saterdag ke ha go nna wes a se kgone go pagologa bete Mpho o tlogetse ka di 6 tsa August ka go le Vrydag.
Her death was especially devastating for her older sister, 𝗀𝗁cie Mathibela Mokgobi.
Did it break your heart?
Thata thata.
Still coming to terms with Mpho's death, the Mathibela family say they are grateful to the medical team that changed their lives. Carte Blanche invited both Sophie and Dr. Miller back to Bara for a reunion that is 35 years in the making.
We thought we should just remind South Africa about the importance of the story and the incredible medical professionals that did it. But we went a step further, Doc. Mpho and Mphonyana's mother is here.
Hey, you look the same.
What a
Long story.
It's a long story.
It was in Ward 7.
Ward 7.
And there was a little room at the side. I remember her feeding the kids.
Yes.
Wow. So there you go. That's
a life you changed.
yeah.
A life you changed. Yes, history.
History that began with two special girls, a medical team capable of miracles, and a country yearning for hope.